A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are safe and well. And a very warm welcome to the closing ceremony of the National Youth Dialogue on Leadership, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship for the year 2020-21, presented to you by the United Nations Development Programme in Sri Lanka, together with its partners. A big thank you to all of you tuning in, both via Zoom and also our live stream on Facebook. Simultaneous interpretations are available in sign language, Sinhala, and Tamil. The National Youth Dialogue was part of a series of national dialogues across the Asia and the Pacific regions as a part of Youth CoLab Initiative, a project co-led by City Foundation and UNDP. This year's national dialogue was of unprecedented nature and was conducted entirely as a virtual participant experience. Over the past 5 weeks, every Tuesday and Thursday, more than 2,000 young people were able to engage in a series of activities that were targeted at helping you lead, innovate, and be entrepreneurial, both in the post-pandemic new normal and the decade of action towards the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. A special note of appreciation is due for more than 100 speakers and facilitators, 113 to be precise, who joined us for this effort to conduct these sessions. These individuals, many of whom were young people themselves, volunteered their time and effort with passion and commitment to deliver a unique offering to our young audience. With the possibilities of online engagement, we had speakers joining in from across the globe, from USA to Thailand and Pakistan to the Republic of Korea. And they were of multiple nationalities as well as from Sri Lanka, Indian, Brazilian to Kenyan. We also had you in thousands as a fantastic learning audience, so thank you very much. A word of appreciation for our partners of the program, without whom the dialogue would not have been possible. The United Nations Development Programme took the lead in the implementation of the National Youth Dialogue 2020-21, and as our first speaker amongst the eminent line of speakers at this closing ceremony, I invite Mr. Robert Newcomb, the resident representative of UNDP Sri Lanka, to make his remarks.
So greetings, good afternoon, and welcome to the closing ceremony of the UNDP National Youth Dialogue Series on Leadership, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship in 2020 and 2021. Amongst our session speakers today, we're going to be very pleased to be joined with the presence of the Chairman DG of the National Youth Services Council, my dear colleague Hannah Singer, the Resident Coordinator of the United Nations in Sri Lanka, yes, UNESCO colleague Eric Falt, who is Director of the New Delhi Cluster Office, representatives from City, Facebook, and of course, acknowledging the youth, the many participants of Sri Lanka who have made this also a success. So I'm going to make a few remarks here as a bit of a warm-up. The welcoming still stands. This is a chance to congratulate you and also to thank the many who were engaged to support the dialogue. The way we engage young people, today will determine tomorrow's prospects for sustainable development. You must be empowered to tackle your own challenges, and we, the various range of stakeholders, can help. We can help, for example, by providing you with the enabling environment so that you can make human development and SDG achievement a reality for all of Sri Lanka. And in this sense, today, as a kind of closing event, represents the culmination of this transformational opportunity to lay the foundation for a prosperous, sustainable, and peaceful future in Sri Lanka. We, when I say we, I mean all of those who are online with us today. We all benefit from the energy, the knack for mobilization, good communication, and innovation of you as young leaders and activists. You can continue to continuously rejuvenate public debate. You do so by opening spaces for dialogue, by asking critical questions. And your voices not only count, your voices really must be amplified by us, those from national and subnational institutions of government, from civil society, from private sector, and from development partners, including, of course, the UN, UNDP, and others. It's worth reflecting where we are. It's March, the middle of March, and it was just a year ago exactly since COVID-19 was officially recognized as a pandemic, and which led to a rather dramatic response with curfews and lockdowns being imposed across the globe, and Sri Lanka was not spared from that in an effort to contain the disease. Unfortunately, what we now know is, in addition to the disease, the socioeconomic impacts have been great, and it's become clearer than ever that the road to recovery will be a long and hard one. And I also know that young people have been amongst the hardest hit. Imagine those who were not able to attend school, and those who maybe didn't have access to online capability, or those youth who were hoping to join the job market but found that the job market was gone. So, you know, that shows that we still have a long way to go, and it will be a difficult journey. But you, young activists, youth, have demonstrated your value in the COVID-19 response and recovery, and you should be congratulated for that and thanked for that. Since 2017, the National Youth Dialogue has been a national platform for what we like to refer to as meaningful youth participation and learning. And we are pleased to continue this tradition, entirely virtual this year, but no less quality oriented and no less interactive. I'm really pleased to know that during the past 5 weeks, over 2,000 young people have engaged in almost 30 sessions. These were designed to help you be leaders, to lead, to innovate, to be entrepreneurial in a number of areas, whether it's climate action or health or culture and arts and sports, education, employment skills, gender equality, peace, and so many others. And I trust that this multidimensional approach has left you with new knowledge, new understandings, new capabilities, and has opened your mind and has shifted your attitude, in fact, towards not only achieving both your personal and collective goals, but also to successfully transforming yourselves as advocates and partners, equal partners for change. I'd like to mention a special note of appreciation. As Afra mentioned at the beginning, we do have or have had more than 100 speakers and facilitators who joined us. Many of these individuals are young people themselves, and all of them volunteered their time with passion and commitment to delivering something new to you, the participants. I'd like to also thank sincerely the partners of the program who made this rich dialogue a reality. Special mention to Youth CoLab, an initiative in the Asia Pacific region, co-led by City Foundation and UNDP's regional office. Big thank you to City Foundation and our colleagues at UNDP's Bangkok Regional Hub. And to our other partners, the Vocational Authority of Sri Lanka, the National Youth Services Council, City, Facebook, Cisco, the ICTA, the ICT Agency of Sri Lanka, Neo One Associates, the Center for Communications Training, hashtag Generation, Biodiversity Sri Lanka, and SLASCOM. All of these other partners had a role to play, and we're super thankful. And not to forget our very own partners in the UN family, in particular UNESCO, UNFPA, UNICEF, UNV, and WHO. So with this, I also don't want to forget to thank my fellow UNDP colleagues led by the HackerDev team, who have worked tirelessly, not just over the past few weeks, but over the past months, to deliver an exciting learning offering in a novel and inclusive way in an environment, an online environment that changed the way we might have done things as in previous years, but still came off successful. I hope that's been your experience. UNDP Sri Lanka, through the existing and scaled up platforms for youth, such as HackerDev, we are steadfast in our support to the government of Sri Lanka. We want to continue to build alliances around youth development to create new partnerships and collaborations, strengthen the existing ones, which really are the foundation upon which we can collectively invest our efforts and resources. Remember, your empowerment is both a right, a human right. It's a human right imperative, but it's also a needed investment to build forward better in this trying and difficult time. So I hope that you will, I'm sure that you will, continue to learn, to inspire yourself and to inspire others to action, transformative ideas that you have. UNDP, along with our partners, look forward to collaborating and partnering with some of you in the future. And I wish to thank everyone again at the end of what's been an exciting 5 weeks. I hope that each and every one of you were able to discover a bit of that leader, innovator, entrepreneur in you through the National Youth Dialogue. That's it for me. Stay safe and good luck in future endeavors. And I look forward to the rest of this celebration today. Thank you, and back to you, Afra.
Thank you, Mr. Yukam, for your remarks and for reaffirming UNDP's commitment to working with all stakeholders for the betterment of youth. Mr. Damita Wickramasinghe, Chairman of Vocational Training Authority, was to be with us today, but unfortunately he had to attend to an emergency, so we would like to apologize on his behalf. Our second speaker represents this young generation of leaders and entrepreneurs, and she's here with us to share a bit about her entrepreneurial journey as well as her experience of this year's program. Let me now invite Ms. Rashmi Pereira, the co-founder of Share a Book and also a HackerDev alumnus.
Thank you, Afra. A very good afternoon to everybody. So I'm Rashmi Pereira, and together with 4 other young women, I am the co-founder of Share a Book and a former participant of the HackerDev program. So I would like to briefly speak to you about my experience in the National Youth Dialogue and broadly about my experience in HackerDev. This year's National Youth Dialogue wasn't like the ones we have seen from UNDP before. Given the new normal brought about by the pandemic, everyone was pushed to do things virtually. It wasn't possible for us to interact physically, but I personally was looking forward to what the possibilities of a virtual engagement can be. Being a budding entrepreneur and currently living in an extremely uncertain environment, we are often anxious of what the future can hold. So personally, I was seeking any kind of opportunities to gain new knowledge and skills to succeed. So I believe this year's program has done a lot in helping me. Before I get into the specifics of how the program was, let me share with you my story in brief. So I'm currently a university student, and a few years ago, along with the initiative of some of my batchmates, I, along with 4 other girls, decided to take part in a hackathon, a social coding competition. With that started a long journey that is still being led and continued by our team. After speculating an idea, which is now called Share a Book, we were excited to try our hand and put our skills and work to test at various competitions. Along the way, we came across HackerDev, and believe me, I cannot express how impactful the program and the following years have been for me as an individual, for my group members as individuals, and in whole for us as one team as well. It was mere chance that we landed the opportunity, and throughout the stages of the programs, from the initial screening rounds to the social innovation camp to the incubation program, we received plenty of invaluable bestowals. I vividly remember the Hackadev Social Innovation Camp, which I wouldn't be wrong to describe as a fun and educational encounter, much like a mini adventure, which we had with many other young people like us. We learned, we experienced, we made new friendships, and we grew. But not alone as one person or as a single team, but as a family of young entrepreneurs. The friendships we made remain, and the knowledge we gathered still helps us in various ways. As a team of young individuals with almost no prior experience in entrepreneurship and an idea we hope to bring to life, we were led, guided, and mentored by successful entrepreneurs and domain experts during the Hackadev incubation program. And 1 year ago, on a day like today, before the pandemic caused the need for a new norm, I was sitting at the National Youth Dialogue Program of 2020, listening to the success stories of the many entrepreneurs who were there to speak to us. And I'm extremely happy to be a speaker myself at this year's National Dialogue. My enterprise is motivated to share knowledge, and our mission is to ensure that quality education and skills reach young people. And I believe that programs such as National Dialogue share that goal. I was happy that I was able to tune in and engage in several sessions of this edition. Some of the highlights were insightful discussions on the future of education and skills, a training on digital classrooms, an inspiring discussion curated by Youth Collab on women entrepreneurship, learning about digital banking and financing, to learning from some of the best and emerging young entrepreneurs, innovators, and leaders on how they continue to push boundaries, be successful, and make an impact in society. It was a fascinating experience, and what I learned then will help me nurture and shape both my career and life as a young individual. And I have no doubt that what you are learning today as young individuals will definitely help you in your entrepreneurial journey, as it would for me as well. I would phrase this journey as an eye opener and one amazing ride towards success. And I believe I'm just in the beginning. I would like to thank Youth Collab, City Foundation, and UNDP, together with other partners, for bringing this event in this scale, despite the disruptions caused by the current pandemic situation in the world. The National Youth Dialogue Program, held annually by UNDP Sri Lanka, is a platform for young entrepreneurs of our little island, including myself. So don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone. Don't be afraid to voice your brilliant ideas. Let us all be resilient and determined to make a favorable impact in Sri Lanka and in the world. Thank you again, and I hope you have a very good day.
Thank you, Ms. Pereira, for your inspiring remarks on the program and your journey. We wish you well for the future. Our third speaker for the day represents one of the key partners of UNDP, not just at the local level, but also across the region. The City Foundation is a project co-lead that invested and believed in youth leadership, innovation, and entrepreneurship to build the Youth Co-Lab project in the Asia and the Pacific region. Further, City in Sri Lanka for several years has partnered with UNDP to create far-reaching impact in the space of youth empowerment. Our next invitation to Mr. Raveen Basnayaka, who is a country officer for City, to address the session.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Afra. And Rashmi, what an inspirational story. And we are very, very happy to hear success stories like that. Good afternoon, friends. And I'm delighted to join you for the closing ceremony of the National Youth Dialogue. It's heartening to see over 2,000 of you engage in robust dialogue on broad range of sustainable development issues over the last couple of weeks, and also develop actionable outcomes. So congratulations to all of you. We are counting on you to make this a just and a prosperous world for all of us to live in. The ongoing pandemic has created new issues for all of us and expanded the existing ones. I don't need to tell you the issues all of us are facing both locally and globally. We are already seeing immediate impact from rising unemployment and also limited job opportunities. The global wealth gap is expanding and the environment is taking a beating. Time for action is now, and we are looking to you to drive change. We believe that youth-centric events like this will further harness your capabilities, create partnerships, and build future leaders to meet these challenges. UNDP and City Foundation co-created the Youth Collab initiative in 2017, recognizing the key role youth can play in enabling progress and finding solutions for the most pressing challenges faced in their communities. We are encouraged by the impact on the program so far, and we are thankful that we could contribute in some way to facilitate your desire to make a difference. I want to thank our co-lead, UNDP, other partner organizations, resource personnel, and volunteers for your commitment to this cause. All our young leaders, please engage now on issues that matter to you. This is your future, and we are counting on you. I will leave you with a quote from the lyrics of Alicia Keys' hit song, Girl on Fire. I'm not planning to sing it, but I'll just leave a quote. Or we got our feet on the ground and we are burning it down, or got our head in the cloud and we are not coming down. So wish you all the courage to dream and to burn down the status quo. Thank you and stay safe.
Thank you, Mr. Basnaika. And similarly, UNDP acknowledges and values our partnership with City, and we hope that it can grow from strength to strength. UNESCO is a partner in our own UN family, among many others, who have come forward in a big way to partner with UNDP and amplify and widen the reach of their work, reaching key audiences like young people. To that end, at this national dialogue, UNESCO made a telling contribution in several thematic areas, such as youth and peace, education, skills and employment, with the organization well represented. It's my pleasure now to invite Mr. Eric Falt, the director of the New Delhi Cluster Office of UNESCO.
Thank you, Afra. I'm not sure I'll be like Ravin and able to quote Alicia Keys, but I'm certainly very happy to be with you today and address so many young change makers because they indeed truly hold the key to a more resilient and sustainable today and tomorrow. I also really want to congratulate our UNDP partners and all organizers of this, I think, almost month-long national dialogue, and of course for this final celebration. There's no denying that this is a very unique year in the history of the United Nations and the world. As we move into the decade of action to deliver the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, we continue to face an unprecedented crisis. It is a critical period to advance a shared vision and accelerate responses to the world's gravest challenges, from eliminating poverty and hunger to reversing climate change. But the spread of the coronavirus has turned a public health emergency really into one of the worst international crises of our lifetimes. With respect to the SDGs, we've been particularly hard hit because of the pandemic. According to a report that some of you may have seen released by the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs, the 15-year global effort to improve the lives of people everywhere through the achievement of the SDGs was already off track by the end of 2019. But in only a short period of time, the COVID-19 pandemic has unleashed a crisis and caused further disruption of the SDG progress, with the world's poorest and most vulnerable affected the most. The good news is that we are seeing a variety of players step up for the SDGs, and it's quite good to see that the most enthusiastic segment of all is with us today, and that is, of course, youth. Even during these difficult times, young women and young men have shown resilience. And while we navigate uncharted waters during this COVID-19 pandemic, we really need to recognize and commend the efforts of youth who have put the community ahead of themselves. One can think, for instance, of youth activists like Greta Thunberg at the international level, who has been advocating for climate action. But we can also think, for instance, in the region, since I'm based here in India, New Delhi, I want to mention an interesting initiative by a 16-year-old Indian schoolboy called Lakshya Subodh, who prepared a COVID-19 curriculum to train rural women on the perils of the COVID-19 pandemic. But one can also think closer to Nabila Iqbal from Sri Lanka, who spoke up for women's rights through the Sisterhood initiative. And all around, we have seen exceptional grit and leadership exhibited by the youth of the world. Youth have the creativity, the potential, and the capacity to make change happen for themselves, for their communities, but also for the rest of the world. And that's why UNESCO places so much emphasis, together with other sister UN agencies, on young people, and why we are committed to accompanying young people to work together for social innovation and change so that they can participate fully in the development of their societies. To bring this goal to fruition, in 2019, we joined UNDP and the UN family in Sri Lanka at large on the successful national program Hackadev to empower youth to address social issues, which we hope is providing opportunities for entrepreneurship and action. In 2020, UNESCO supported the youth initiative Open Up in Sri Lanka in continuation of Hackadev, where the focus shifted to providing guidance and support towards the incubation process in order to groom the selected teams to implement their innovative solutions in the best, most sustainable manner. The SDGs call for a spirit of strengthened global and local solidarity. However, we also see that violent extremism carries with it the potential to destabilize societies. Therefore, to mitigate violent extremism amongst the youth in Sri Lanka, we have tried to be proactively engaging with this particular segment on this particular issue through discussions, workshops, interactive games, and other simulations in collaboration with our sister entity, MGIEP, in order to equip the youth with critical thinking skills for them to understand the driving factors behind conflicts and violence. During this national dialogue, we've been very proud to support the discussions on the futures of learning, on the important issue of youth employment and skills, and we delivered together a capacity building workshop on youth and peace building. In all of our interactions with the youth in Sri Lanka, and even though our office is based far away, we have certainly noticed, and I want to emphasize, a general compassion and tenacity for accelerating the progress towards the SDGs. And today, as we discuss the road ahead, I would say that we must set aside the skepticism and hopelessness that COVID has brought us and lift up the hope that is available to us through collective action. We are at a tipping point. The decisions we make now and the actions that follow will determine the course of life in what I like to call year 1 AC, after coronavirus. It is important to note that governments alone cannot be expected to drive social change. We need to make sure that we're not just the beneficiaries, but also the agents of change. And perhaps here I could quote the former Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, when he remarked, and I quote him, "We are the first generation that can end poverty and the last generation that can end climate change." Your generation has the opportunity to do what has never been done before. Therefore, while countries consider their post-COVID policy options, through your leadership, innovative ideas, and entrepreneurial spirit, we need you to step up and re-engineer the post-COVID world to make it more peaceful and just, where no one, hopefully, will be left behind. My concluding message for all of the concerned stakeholders and all the participants today is thus a call to empower youth so that we can tap into their amazing potential. As many people have pointed out, the millennial generation is the generation most intolerant to intolerance. Rest assured, they will not sit back and be passive bystanders. So our best bet is to channel their creativity and help uplift them so that we can all build a sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Falls, for your words, and we appreciate all the efforts taken on UNESCO's part to make this dialogue series a success. At the start, I was only able to briefly speak to you about what the program entailed. It was, of course, 5 weeks of intense activities. In our next segment, let's look back at what the National Youth Dialogue 2020-2021 was. I'm sure many of you who have tuned in have fond memories, takeaways, and highlights from the session. So here's a quick recap video. Now it's time for quite a special intervention. We reached out to one of our participants of the program who participated in almost all the sessions, and we were delighted that this young individual was happy to engage with us today and share her experience in going through the program. Zara Taha is here with us today, and it is over to you.
Thank you very much, Afra. I believe engaging and inspiring young people is vital, not only for their own development, but for the communities they live in. Young people are filled with an amazing capacity to adapt to the change with natural passion and desire to make the world a better place. The National Youth Dialogue 2021 for inspiring young people focusing in achieving the SDGs in a decade of action, of course, was a worthy learning to me during my engagement in the past 5 weeks. This platform helped me recognize the access points for resources around me, professional support systems, awareness on various timely topics, technological know-how, and adaptation to different learning experiences. I would also highlight that the virtual experience I gained by NYD was extraordinary. The tools used in making the session interactive was another key factor that kept the sessions lively and interesting. I enjoyed the panel discussions, trainings by volunteers, Hackadev team, and many other prominent individuals in Sri Lanka and around the globe. It was a privilege to take part in a national dialogue with an international exposure. Key events of highlight would be engaging in social cohesion, climate change actions, NBC for peace building, and role play for youth volunteers. I was also able to be aware on Hackadev initiatives, Youth Collab, VTC, City Foundation services in youth empowerment. Webinar sessions spotlighted young entrepreneurs, stars, YouTubers was really an interesting session. These sessions personally impact me for a better growth mindset. Thank you for the golden opportunity given to me as well as the youth population of Sri Lanka to persuade differently for a successful mindset as together we can make a bigger and better change. Thank you very much. Over to you, Afra.
Thank you, Zara, for sharing your feedback, and I'm sure you speak for many young people who are part of our audience. Next up in our lineup of speakers is Mr. Senura Abewardena from Facebook, who is one of the key partners of UNDP in the recent past, working with us on several areas. Let's hear from Mr. Abewardena.
Thank you, Afra. Good morning, good afternoon, friends. It was exactly a year ago that I was stuck in a foreign country after the airport had closed down. We did not know what the future would hold. And here we are, 12 months down the line. As a global community, we have achieved so much together through so much hardship. Ladies and gentlemen, the pandemic has thrown a curveball to everyone, and this is without discrimination. But the silver lining in this story is how all of us have adjusted to the cliched new normal. The National Youth Dialogue in its digital format is a fantastic example that speaks to the adoption of new methods to bring the community closer together, share ideas, and empower each other even during a pandemic. The UNDP team has mustered over 2,000 participants from across the island. They have now benefited from this to learn from 112 resource persons with the partnership of 25 organizations that have stepped up to support this initiative. And to sustain that engagement over a 5-week period, and that too in the digital space, does not fall short of being a Herculean effort. And I congratulate the UNDP team for that. We still recall the day we had the first meeting with the UNDP team at the Citra Innovation Lab in 2019 to discuss this program amongst many other opportunities. The impact of the program makes the journey and experience even more fulfilling, having been able to help youth harness the social innovation ideas, digital transformation, and to support communities have a better experience online. Ladies and gentlemen, as a company that is committed to giving people the power to build community, we recognize the challenges as much as we value what we provide through our services to bring people closer together. We take this opportunity to express our sincere gratitude to the UNDP team for making us part of their journey to help empower, to build a skilled and a civic-minded community of youth in Sri Lanka. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abewardena, and for your renewed commitment to ensuring meaningful youth empowerment. Next, let us hear from the head of the Apex National Agency with Youth Empowerment in Sri Lanka. Mr. Teshara Jayasinghe is the chairman of the National Youth Services Council. Mr. Jayasinghe, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Afra. Very good afternoon to everyone and our distinguished guests, partners, and young people in the audience. I'm pleased to be able to speak into you at the closing ceremony of the National Youth Dialogue 2021 and on leadership, innovation, and entrepreneurship. I'd like to congratulate UNDP and its partners, Youth Collab, and all the other organizations for organizing this 5-week-long event. And I have a special message to 2,000 strong youth participants who participated during this event, that your deliberations and activities that focused on empowering the youth of Sri Lanka to lead, to innovate, and be entrepreneurial will be taken very seriously by the government of Sri Lanka. And I can emphasize that as NYSC. So, and I'd like to recall the first interaction that I had with you about a year and a bit before, last year's February. It was totally a different world at that time. Our interactions were different. And however, COVID also gave us the opportunity to be more innovative. And this session I can mention as one of these new outcomes that came out as a byproduct of the COVID. So youth and the world at large, we had been resilient, and we have come a long way, so that we had been able to adopt the new ways and means and get on with our lives, and adapt to what is called the new normal. And I would also like to congratulate again UNDP, Youth CoLab and its partners for organizing this event and adopting the technology to allow our youths to participate and continue to engage with all its stakeholders. Ravin mentioned the pressing challenges and encountered by youth. So I'd like to mention what as NYSC we did and continue to do for youth during the pandemic. At the very beginning in 2020, we realized youth going to be the hardest hit due to the pandemic. So we adopted the policy of avoiding saying no to youth programs, avoid saying no to youth programs, so that we continued our operations to serve the youth by introducing new set of programs. If I may give you one example, that we were the pioneers in introducing online training environments in Sri Lanka. And after that, the other institutions, the government institutions adopted the same technology. And also we were able to expand our youth club base. Federation of Youth Clubs is the largest volunteer organization in the South Asian region. When at the beginning of the pandemic, we were just about 43,000 strong. But I'm happy to tell you now, as I speak, we are 350,000 strong and growing. So this is part of the success story, how successful we had been reaching out to youth during the pandemic, so that we've been able to almost increase our membership numbers by tenfold. And as we speak, during these days, we host a program called Talent Hunt, that is to go seek out there for the youth in the across the island, in all the districts, with the skill and the potential to become future sporting stars of the country. And as we speak, we are hosting the 41st Youth Drama Festival in Colombo. And this is another spectrum that we are working on, that is to continue to engage with youth, to develop the aesthetic and performing art sector, the culture, and support them to become future stars, and also creating a platform for them to showcase their talents, etc. Entrepreneurship is one key element. The government's policy emphasizes that. Risk-taking is one key aspect. Actually, President himself emphasizes that we want to get our youth to engage in. Economically, as a government, we are shifting towards competitive economics from comparative economics, so that we want our youth to take lead in that, in taking the lead in become competitive. So I am happy to announce you for the first time in Sri Lankan history as NYSC, we will be releasing 150 million Sri Lankan rupees for startups as the seed capital from this year. And this is only for a duration of 12 months period. We hope to encourage entrepreneurship, and we hope to assist at least 334 businesses, at least one single business in every divisional secretariat level in Sri Lanka. So that's a game changer. We believe that will become a game changer in the country. 150 million Sri Lankan rupees. It's a big money in terms of local currency. And we also have youth parliament under us. And we were the first institution to have any sort of election in that magnitude operated on computer-based technology. So we are also reaching out to our youth parliamentarians and giving them financial assistance to engage in their locales to develop social enterprises as well as develop infrastructure in their areas. By doing so, we encourage them to become social leaders beyond political prisms. So I'd like to extend a special note of appreciation to UNDP. Beyond the youth dialogue, I must say NYC and UNDP continues to benefit from long-standing partnership between us for a number of years, even before my tenure, centered around UNDP's Hackaday programs. And I'm looking forward to see how our collaboration develops into the future as well. So my final message is to youth. My invitation is to seize the opportunity, such as National Youth Dialogue, to gain new knowledge, capabilities, gain capabilities, and make your voices heard and your grievances known and your questions answered. Use platforms such as this to continuously to push the boundaries and engage proactively. As NYSC, as National Youth Services Council, we are ready to help you every step of the way. And thank you, and stay safe, and goodbye.
Thank you, Mr. Jayasinghe, for laying out the government's strategy towards young people and calling on young people to seize opportunities such as this. And finally, let us hear from the top official leading the United Nations system in Sri Lanka, who is also a keen advocate for the unmistakable central role that young people play in the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals. It's my pleasure to invite Ms. Hannah Singer Hamdi, the United Nations resident coordinator in Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Afra. Thank you very much. And a wonderful afternoon to all of you. Let me start by a big thank you for UNDP Sri Lanka for asking me to join one of my favorite topics, or the favorite topics to my heart, to be involved and to talk to young people. I tell you a secret that last September, I completed 30 years of working in the UN, but out of which 27 years, I was totally dedicated and worked very closely with the young people. So I always feel young at heart, and I still miss this connection very much. So huge thanks for my wonderful friends from UNDP for pulling me into this very interesting subject, or close subject to my heart. Thank you. So I also would like to start by thanking our partners. And I know my dear colleague, Robert, had really done a great job. But maybe if I can, in thanking the partners, but allow me to thank also those who have, colleagues who have joined us from the government. So Chairman, National Youth Service Council, Mr. Tashara, and it's really wonderful to hear the government efforts on youth. I thank also our UNDP Regional Youth Program, the youth clubs, the Youth Collab, City Foundation, the Facebook. Wow, I mean, you've really done a great gathering here. My dear friend Eric Holt from Unesco, our very dear friends and colleagues from the private sector, and all our UN colleagues who had joined this forum. Really, Impressive. Thank you very much. Now, my dear friends, young people have the power, the determination, the courage, and the boldness to try something new. They have the ideas and they have the solutions. We have seen this through so many UN projects that we do, that the UN agencies do through with young people, like the Sistra Lab, or our efforts to combat hate speech. Young people may not always be given the platform to speak and influence, but now through technology, innovations, and leadership, they have created their own means of being heard and influencing. Now, as the UN, we have moved away from events that talk about young people or events where we talk to young people. So we are now taking a step back to listen to young people talking to each other. And this was one of the purposes of the 5 weeks virtual activities of the National Youth Dialogue that culminates today. And I have to say, I'm very envious of having missed spending time or spending any time in these 5 weeks that must have been full of energy. And I can feel already the energy from the speakers before me about this. So great work. Now, we believe that the way we engage young people today will determine the prospects of sustainable development and peace in the future. Young people are visibly contributing as political actors, innovators, entrepreneurs, and peace builders. Look at Malala, look at Greta, and even Sri Lanka's very old Jatma. They have not been waited to be given the seat at the table. They have taken it. And look at really what even Rashmi has just shared with us. So we believe that to utilize young people potential as agents of change, this requires involving and empowering them in development, in policies, and supporting their participation at all levels. Now, why do we care, colleagues? We need young people to bring their ideas to the table to fulfill our ambitious plans for the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The active engagement of youth in these efforts is really central to achieving sustainable, inclusive, and stable societies 10 years from now and beyond. So I want to quickly highlight 3 areas where young Sri Lankans can play a critical role moving forward. Without them, we cannot find the solutions for these issues. And I really want to complement what Eric had beautifully presented. So I'm just following, complementing some of the issues he had said. Now, first, we cannot talk about sustainable and resilient communities without focusing on our planet, which houses them, which houses these sustainable and resilient communities. Today, we are consuming at a faster rate than our planet can keep up. Its capacity to maintain our lifestyles is eroding. Furthermore, climate change is making the gap between the rich and the poor wider. There has to be a tipping point, and we are inching closer to it. If we want to reverse these trends, we need young people. We need innovations to ensure the sustainability of our planet. And more, these innovations are coming from young people. For instance, we saw young people coming up with the 3D printed face shields to AI-empowered app that can triage at-risk patients. We saw these coming from young people as solutions during the COVID pandemic. Therefore, an investment in youth and innovation is an investment in all our future. So, very selfish at times, but it's the reality. Second, peace building and conflict prevention. Young people have a lot to contribute to peace building process, including prevention of violent extremism and countering hate speech. Their voices are critical for creating a lasting peace in Sri Lanka, both at the community and at a national level. UN Sri Lanka supports a number of these programs to ensure young people participation in peace building processes in line with the Security Council Resolution 2250 on the Youth, Peace and Security Agenda. The vast majority of young people are passionate and active for the cause of peace, and their passion needs to be harnessed to create a more peaceful world that is for all of us, and that includes all of us. Third, we need young people to be involved in the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. Young people can act as a connective tissue in public institutions, decision-making process, and public consultations to bridge short-term concerns such as the economy and long-term objectives such as environment and more robust institutions, which will result in a more fair and inclusive policy outcomes and societal resilience. So as we move forward in engaging more young people and letting them lead the recovery, we acknowledge also, my friends, that young people are not a homogeneous group. So we need to make extra efforts to reach out to those young people who may be in a vulnerable position or facing particular challenges, such as young people with disabilities, LGBTIQ youth, migrant and rural youth. Therefore, by strengthening the existing network of youth clubs across the island through innovations and partnership, more young people can be engaged in building a safer, resilient, and a peaceful future for everyone. So with this, I want to thank you once again for your partnership and congratulate the organizers under the leadership of my dear colleague, the resident representative, Robert Jukam, on a month of innovative activities for the youth of Sri Lanka. So my dear friends, go out there and make your voices heard in building a better future. The people of Sri Lanka need you and the planet needs you. Best of luck and stay safe, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Singer Hamdi, for your energetic remarks and reiterating the power of youth and also the commitment towards young people on the part of the entire United Nations system in Sri Lanka. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the closing session of the National Youth Dialogue, and indeed the conclusion of this entire 5-week-long program. Before we go, one final exciting announcement. All young people who attended the National Youth Dialogue will receive your personal e-certificate in recognition of your engagement. I thank all the speakers who engaged today, and indeed all the program partners, and a very few special individuals, our language translators of English, Sinhala, Tamil, and Sign Language. It's our collective hope that through platforms such as this, you are inspired and enabled to lead, innovate, and be entrepreneurial to build a country and a future that we wish to have. Until we see you next through indeed the next National Youth Dialogue or another youth engagement, this is Afra from UNDP signing off. Stay safe and have a nice evening. Thank you.